In today's video, I have a final look at the dodgy players from PUBG South Africa. Now I have to hasten to add that the vast majority of players are clean, and I think there are only a handful of players who are using cheats. I'd like to thank those who have supported me and thank me for coming forward. I truly hope the majority of the honest players have good games and experience only a fair and level playing field in future. Finally, I would just like to point out that lots of insults have been hurled my way, mostly from the suspected players and their fans. One or two being admins no less. I've been called every name under the sun. All this as I was pretty much forced to create a video exposing the cheating as the admins were playing interference and covering for them. The following evidence was also provided to PSA and its admins, and as per usual it was swept under the rug. I hope this shines a light for those in doubt. If you remain playing, be sure to save your replays and check if you can catch them in the act. Sometimes they make a big mistake, and it is only then that a person can definitively prove that the suspicious play is in fact something more. Right, so for this evidence we're going to start from the plain path for a change. I'm going to attempt to explain some of what occurred. Be rest assured that I've looked at the recording or the replay from multiple angles. I've looked at the replay from each individual player, as I always do. The only caveat being that the replay file that you have is limited to the view that you have or until when the play ends for yourself. But at any rate, for this piece of evidence or replay, let me just boil down some of the basic facts. So we have a player, Negative Soul, who's on the team Deadly Crows. And unfortunately he's become split from the rest of his team. The reason for this is, I believe he was going for a vehicle, etc, etc, but it's not all that important. All we need to know is that AGs have dropped into Pochinki, Wrangel, they've looted up, and they start to head out, as we can see here. Now notice, for example, that this player leaving didn't spot Negative Soul on the side of the road there as it was lying prone in the grass. So at the very least we can deduce from that over here that if they were using anything suspicious, they were not using it at that point in time. So we'll just have another look at the player leaving the town. This, I think, is from, this is from another player's point of view. This is from Vikings, so same angle. He was lying to the right side of the road. So right, so what happens next? This team appear to be rotating out to go to zone. They're just outside of the circle. This is the view from yet another player. Now it seems that they were initially rotating for zone, and then it's as if they were passing the farmhouses on the eastern side when they suddenly veered to the right. So just have a look at that. Right, so the same drive-by again, and now we see they kind of heading to go past the Potato Hill. Yeah, okay, so see here where, and so right, so for the following I'd like to suggest perhaps you know, that there's a number of things that could have been occurring here. So let's go with the first explanation, you know, and this is just the players just playing the game, doing their thing. The team have rolled up to this little compound on the outskirts of Pochinki. We see Viking has gone offline, Stefan has gone offline. We'll see the Wim guy running, doing a quick additional bit of looting, and then he also goes AFK. And then just one player is up, which is Narco. So one possible explanation is simply that the players, so we make use of exit lag because we have to connect to Singapore for the lowest amount of ping to have the best experience in the game. And the players presumably here realized that they'd forgot to turn on their exit lag, and as such they're shutting down the game and putting on the exit lag and then coming back into the game. Not sure why this player here, Wim, with a rude name, why he goes AFK here. I would, however, say that if I was going to go AFK to do something like, I don't know, make a cup of coffee or something, I would probably position myself so that the greatest position where any threat might come from, that I'd be facing that. I wouldn't be facing a container, I'd be facing towards where the danger may come from. Now we see Viking come back online here, and he seems to be doing something. Clicks out a window, checks another little window, sees Wim, his teammate. Hovers by the door for something. Goes stationary for a little while. So this can all be just the team maybe perhaps getting themselves together. Just showing this camera view, the surrounds and stuff. And so what we have next is the player jumping to the car, immediately jumps out, and the team then proceeds to fire at this player that was mentioned earlier, Negative Soul, who was in the outskirts trying to get his way back to zone without them spotting him. So I'd like to come back to this point here, just so we can see what this looks like from the perspective of the Wim player. So yeah, so like I said, I mean, if you were going to go AFK, if you were a fairly decent player, you would look towards where the greatest danger would come from, in case you just back in time to fire. But anyway, okay, so there we see something. We see that he spots the play with a naked eye, barely visible, and then when he scopes in, obviously the player becomes clearly visible. And they take the player out. So they get in the car and they drive presumably to zone. Just want to have a quick look here one more time at something. So this is the run up. I just want to. Okay, so here we see the Stefan player still disconnected here, staring at the wall. Again, I probably wouldn't want to disconnect something. This player was pulled out, and they help fine. In fact, he gets the flush on that player. Now I'd like to offer an alternative narrative to what we see occur. So if you could humor me. Okay, we focus on the first player there that I've clicked on. That player goes AFK and disconnects from the game entirely. The second player goes into a corner, goes AFK and disconnects from the game entirely. Now, this could potentially be to toggle on, well, cheats. The player Wim is missing one or two items, or would like one or two more items further before he too goes AFK, and so proceeds to run through some of the rooms. And then he too goes outside and goes AFK, as we'll see in a few seconds. Now what he does during that time, I do not know. It may also be to toggle. I don't know why you would have to turn off your game for one and not the other. yeah, I honestly can't tell you more on that side of things. I just know that there are a number of different cheating programs available out there, and one can only assume that perhaps they're not using the same type of cheat, if that is in fact what's occurring. And then the fourth player remains as lookout in case anybody comes around. Now I'm only saying this because of the following observations. So here we have Viking come back. Now notice his crosshair and notice his body. So he's come back, looks like he looted something. Notice the little bunny hop and 360 spin. He does another little spin. Looks in all directions, not that you can see much. Now I want you to imagine that he has a HUD for things such as radar. And so those little 360 spins, and what he's actually doing here right now is in actual fact checking the surrounds to give info back to the team potentially. Now it's in this one here that he could have spotted the player that eventually gets killed. He could be relaying this back to his team, and you will see now that actually as he exits you can hear the footsteps of the UM player running. Does a fake I'm going to drive away with my car play, and then they all just start shooting at the player. So there you have the UM player also looking at that. So this is an alternative narrative, one which is perhaps harder to prove. I mean, maybe Viking was just doing a bit of ballet in the kitchen of that home, and perhaps this UM character was just, just jumped up quickly to open the door for his cat. So yeah. So I'd like to offer you a third narrative. I know, a third narrative. While I was trying to be as objective as possible and get as much information as possible, this included the game file and watching the replay from various angles and so on and so forth, it occurred to me that one of the players on Negative Soul's team, he streams his gameplay. So we went off to Twitch TV, obtained the stream of that evening, and sure enough, I realized that as he was subbing, despite the fact that he was subbing, he was still streaming, and he was looking at his team members. While looking at his team members, he was obviously had the gameplay from the perspective of each team member, and also opened the map several times, and in fact made recommendations for how Negative Soul might get out of the sticky situation that it was in. Now this shouldn't be a problem, because people that stream point of view are simply required to add a 5-minute delay to their stream, which should hopefully compensate for any chance that somebody might actually be watching one of our streams and make use of that information. So it was later that I realized, when I was further investigating and trying to establish exactly by how much the stream was actually delayed, that I made a startling discovery. There was no delay on the stream. So it may have been delayed by 1 or 2 seconds due to communication delay, but there was no actual delay on the stream. So that was unfortunate for the player who got killed. But at any rate, it wouldn't really matter, as none of those players that we just were looking at surely were watching the said stream. Except that they were. And the reason we know that is because one of the players incriminated themselves by leaving a comment. So does the comment prove that the player was watching the stream? Yes, well, obviously, because they left a comment. Can we prove that the person who was watching that stream, who was on the enemy team, was watching at that particular point in time when they killed Negative Soul? Again, yes, we can, due to the nature of the content of what the person wrote. So-called Baas Stefan, who wrote the following on the stream. Negative Soul het die regte naam. Altyd baie negatief as hy doodgaan. Sal hom met 2 ply tissue sponsor vir al die trane wat hy huil. So, loosely translated, he's basically saying he's got the right name because when he dies, he's very negative, and I'll have to sponsor him with 2 ply tissue for all the tears that he's crying, which in itself is quite a toxic comment, to be honest, not a very positive energy to be putting out in the world. But the fact of the matter is actually that the only way that this so-called Baas Stefan could have known what he had said would have been if he was watching the stream at the moment at which he died, because it just so happened that at that moment Negative Soul reacted as most of us do when we die, and couldn't understand how they'd known that to look for him where he was, etc., etc. And so this clearly incriminates that player. Right, so what do we know? We know that so-called Baas Stefan was in fact watching the stream. We know that he was stream sniping, simply put. He was watching the stream, he got real-time information, and he used that real-time information to go looking for the player before the team shot at him. That is what we know at the very least. Some might say there's more in that replay footage, perhaps that needs to be scrutinized. I guess I'll leave that up for you, the audience, to decide. All this evidence was given to the PSA admins, the replay file, the stream file, also the comment left by the perpetrator, who left a very negative, ugly comment on that stream, which fortunately then also incriminates him for the time at which the player was killed. After providing that all to PSA, they basically came back saying, we frown upon people stream sniping, but ultimately there's nothing they can do. So that was why I left the Discord server. I find it really disheartening and disappointing. The team who stream sniped, and maybe more, were never confronted. They were never asked to explain themselves. They were never asked, why did you go AFK? No, the best we got was, one of the admins recalls a conversation they had with one of the players on that team who happened to mention that they'd forgotten to turn on their exit lag. And so that was sufficient enough for them as an explanation in terms of all the AFKing and the rest of it. I'm not so easily convinced, and the whole affair is rather sad. There's a bunch of really nice people playing, and I think it's unfair that, and these are good players. I never said these players were not good in their own right. I just have to be clear on that point as well. I just think it's very unfair to either be cheating or using stream sniping and so on and so forth to get an even more of an upper hand, during the gameplay. But if they lie about stream sniping, and if the admins don't even confront them about that, what else is being lied about, and what else is not being confronted? Take care, and good luck, have fun with your gaming.